Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to Live Weather Impact here on WCNC Plus. I'm meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees. As you can probably imagine, well, I guess I normally work Fridays, and Brad and I were together last Friday, but Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich is taking a very well-deserved day off for the first time in almost 2 weeks. So you have myself and Tim Buckley tonight, but we have a lot of, honestly, mostly positive things to talk about. The way that I always think about winter weather here in the Carolinas is that people get really excited when we have a chance for just straight snow. This is a very rare snow only setup that we're going to see, and really we haven't forecasted many snow only setups. Really, I think back to my first winter here, and hopefully if you were watching on TV it doesn't sound annoying that I keep referencing the 5 years I've been here, but the reason why I do is because we just haven't seen a lot of snow only setups in the last 5 years. In January of 2022, we had those 3 back-to-back weekends, starting with MLK weekend, Martin Luther King Jr. holiday weekend, and then 2 more weekends in a row. The first 2.2 inches, then we had 1.9, and then a trace the following weekend. With both of those snow events, there was sleet that mixed in. So it wasn't snow only, but we still got a decent amount. The 2 winters we know after that, we talked about it a million times, first snowless winter since 1878 here in Charlotte. And then we got a little bit of action last year, but this year we could have essentially the biggest snow event in one day that we've seen in potentially longer than a decade. We're actually going to break down some of the numbers coming up. But first things first, let's look at your weather impact alert. Snow day tomorrow. That's where most of the snow is happening. We are encouraging folks to avoid travel if at all possible. On Sunday, we're going to be watching snowy roadways. So that will allow for a bit of a refreeze risk that we will be watching closely. I don't think we'll see as big of a refreeze issue on Sunday because of the fact that temperatures are going to barely get out of the freezing mark. But it is going to be very, very cold. With snow actively on the ground, we do often see much colder temperatures than expected because essentially what happens is the snow is already on the ground and it actually allows for more cold air to get put back into the atmosphere. And so this is kind of another reason why we oftentimes talk about why humans are better, than the app that comes on your phone. I know you've heard me on my TED Talk about this plenty of times, but human forecasters know things like that, right? They know that high clouds mean you might not be as sunny, or high clouds might mean that you can see more sunshine move through. But another thing they know is that snow actively on the ground releases more cold air into the atmosphere. So right now my forecast calls for barely a high temperature Sunday at 32 degrees, meaning the majority of the day stays below that. So we won't really see a lot of melting, but also not a lot of refreezing on Sunday. Sunday night into Monday, a bit of a different story. We're going to look at bitterly cold air and snowy roadways. Now, again, I do want to break down some of these snowfall kind of times. The last time we had XYZ. So last time we had 3 inches of snow was 2018. Last time we had 4 inches of snow, 2014. But the last time we had 5 inches of snow was 2004. So that's what I meant by a couple decades, if not a decade or longer. So right now our current forecast calls for 4 to 7. So we could be within any of those ranges, which means at a minimum, it's the most snow we've seen in 8 years, which again, I said this on social media, and I do hope it didn't rub anybody the wrong way, but I mean, it is what it is because I already said it. But I actually am pretty excited to forecast this snow potential because of the fact that I know so many people are going to be excited about, sledding with your kids or making snowmen or maybe even doing a snowball fight. I remember not very many, but 1 or 2 times growing up as a kid in Atlanta where we did have an actual snow event. My sister and I could do a snowball fight. We just don't get it that much. Really, we didn't get it that much ever, but it is becoming, lesser and lesser. And so I mentioned this during our newscast, but this is the first time I've ever seen the snow meter go above a 3 in literally 5 years of working with Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. So I think that really says a lot about this event, not only how rare it is, but again, how exciting it is. With the snow on Saturday, the biggest things I want people to keep in mind is that hazardous travel is still likely, and that's why you, of course, see us shaded in the red with major winter storm impacts expected. That's because we'll have active snow and then gusty winds also, allowing for some blowing snow and lowered visibility. But if you can stay safe by not traveling and stay warm, because we'll actually have wind chills most of the afternoon around 10 degrees right here in Charlotte, not in the mountains, but right here in Charlotte. If you can stay safe from those 2 things, avoid travel, either stay at home and enjoy the snow or stay bundled up and maybe take those breaks, head inside, for a snack and then go back out, you should be fine. Again, we're not expecting a lot of power outages here because this isn't an ice risk. So again, if you can avoid travel on Saturday and try to stay at home and enjoy any of the snow at home and not venture out, you should be good. That's why while there is still a negative impact to the system, I'm still very encouraged by the fact that it is snow only. So let's talk about what's happening right now. We do have some snow already starting to pop up here in the mountains, and you might notice a little bit of action on our maps right here down in parts there of York County and Chester County. Most of that is likely drizzle falling from the clouds, or really frozen drizzle falling from the clouds, but it's evaporating before it reaches the ground because our air is still so very dry. We talk about this a lot during any really dry spell where we're tracking dry air near the ground and moisture up in the atmosphere. Virga is rain that evaporates before it reaches the ground, but snurga or snow virga is what happens when you have the same thing with snow. And so some of that is going to happen first before we get the main event really coming into us here in the Charlotte area, which is mainly tomorrow. Here's futurecast as we go through this evening. Again, there's 11 o'clock. Here we are starting the party a little bit around 2 a.m. and this could be a few little snow showers, but I think the majority of the action starts after 4 a.m. And then notice as we get closer to the afternoon, you'll see a few pockets of what almost looks like a deep blue shading. Those are those pockets of energy that could allow for a snow burst. A burst of snow, which is where we see a lot of heavy snow falling from the clouds at a time. That essentially means a burst of energy, a burst of moisture. And the way that I was explaining this during the 4, 5, and 6 o'clock newscast was it's essentially a downpour versus light rain. Right? When we see storms during the summer, you have some that are light, some that are heavy, and sometimes it goes in and out of the two. That's essentially the same idea here. So multiple bursts of snow will be possible throughout Saturday afternoon. Early evening, things start to taper off, but you can tell very easily that things stay pretty snowy all throughout the day. So this is the updated winter storm impacts or winter weather impacts for Saturday. So snow again really picking up around 4 or 5. Big bursts will be possible late morning, early afternoon, and then again we're tapering off. The worst travel related to winds are going to be in the afternoon. Once those winds start to pick up, we'll see gusts around 30 or so miles an hour. So with the wind, we'll also see isolated power outages, but again, this is not going to be widespread. So that's the maximum issue I think we'll have Saturday evening and overnight into Sunday, or minimum impact that we'll see is those power outages. Hazardous travel essentially picks up the second that we start to see some of those bursts of snow. Again, that's late morning, early afternoon, and likely continuing all throughout the evening because we will be watching some icy spots on the roadways.